everybody. Welcome to Matt Connarton Unleashed, the live television edition, here for the first time at MPTS. This is, for those of you watching on MPTS who are puzzled as to why you're seeing me yet again on Wednesday, because it seems like I'm here quite a bit on Wednesday. Not actually a new show. Matt Connarton Unleashed has existed for a few years now. It's actually a live radio show Saturday nights at 11 p.m. on IPMNation.com. And then the television edition has been around for about a year now. We were doing it up until recently at QCEnews.com and, of course, on IPMNation.com as well. And very grateful to the powerful and attractive Glenn R.J. Willett for that opportunity to work with him over there. But we've brought the show now to MPTS. So it's probably new to a lot of you. Those of you who are watching online on IPMNation.com, of course, you're probably already familiar with the show. And regardless of where you're watching it, we do have a live chat room available at IPMNation.com/MCUTV. So if you want to live chat with us during the show, I'm attempting to log into it now and failing. Here we go. So there is that option. And of course, we'll take calls as well. Just look at the phone number on your screen there if you want to give us a call. And to my right, again, depending on your familiarity with the history of the show, you may recognize Little Mel. She is our marketing minion at IPMNation.com and handles the booking for Unleashed. And she also has a very popular show on IPMNation.com, No Boundaries, 10:30 Eastern on Monday nights. Say hello, Mel.
Hi.
I was hoping you'd say hello, Mel. And
hello,
that would have
Mel.
been funny. It's not funny now.
I make things funny when they want to be, when I want to be funny. Okay,
yes.
Not when you want to be funny.
You can't force it.
Right,
Right?
right.
Thank you.
No, you're right. I'm sorry.
you.
I feel bad. I'm sorry you guys had to see that.
It's okay.
I'm always giving her a hard time, you know. I'm always like telling her, you know,
You're so mean.
be more funny. I'm always telling her be more funny. I feel bad about it now.
It's okay. I accept your apology.
That's a lot of what this show's about, you know, is me apologizing.
Yep.
I apologize a lot. Because it's called Unleashed, because I unleash and then I have to apologize. Because I feel bad, but not that bad. That was awkward, huh? Running into Ginger? She hates me. Anyway, so we have a couple of guests here for the first MPTS version of Matt Connarton Unleashed. We have Patrick Arnold, alderman from Democrat from Manchester, and you are running for mayor of Manchester.
I am. Thanks, Matt, for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming on. Of course, you're very familiar with, you're a frequent guest on Progress Report.
I do, yeah. I've been on the Progress Report with Bob Backus several times and go on Joe Lavasser's show every once in a while. So, yeah. Happy to be making the rounds.
How do you like going on Joe's show?
Oh, I like going on all the shows. I try to go on all the shows.
Because I find him very mean.
You find him mean? See, you're going to have to apologize for that.
I know, right? I unleashed. I like Joe. No. I've never actually had a conversation with him, but I'm sure not on Facebook. He's a very nice guy.
Oh. I'll let you take that up with him.
I do like his show. I like his show very much. And of course, the returning John Heichel, the Honorable John Heichel.
Thank you, Matt.
Republican New Hampshire State Representative. And I believe if this were Saturday Night Live, we'd have to do some big skit where we present you with like a 5-timers jacket or something.
6 or 7-timers jacket. I mean.
Yeah. Well, between this and rock, paper, hand grenades.
Right.
I believe I've spoken with you on the air literally more than any other politician that I've ever
I'm honored.
Spoken
and I'm
to.
also honored to be here for your first voyage. Virgin voyage.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Virgin voyage, huh?
I guess that's what we call it on TV.
I was thinking maiden virgin.
Maiden.
That's got a weird connotation.
Kind of the same thing, though, isn't it? Though
it's
hey, these things get picked up.
Yeah, you know,
in the city.
It's an afternoon show. We got to be a little careful. You know, we don't. You know, I mean,
we
really.
have an airline named that, for goodness. I mean,
that's true. That's true.
That's not a.
And there's Virgin Mobile and.
Yeah, there's all kinds of all
kinds of virgins running around. I guess.
Yeah, you can.
Absolutely. Hey, we'll get into all kinds of stuff because we're here for the hour. But I do want to and get everyone's opinion on this. It's a very sad day for me. I awoke this morning to the news that my favorite political satirist of all time, the great, hysterically funny, endlessly amusing Michelle Bachmann of Minnesota, will not seek another term. And I miss her already. I miss her and her ambiguously gay husband, Marcus. I miss them both already. How do you guys feel about that?
What's she going to be doing now? Did she say? I'm just curious.
I don't know. I don't know. I'm hoping she does a talk show.
It seems to be, I guess the trend. Someone leaves federal office, and then they usually get hooked up with MSNBC or Fox or something like that, right? Become a pundit.
Very much the trend.
Right.
Very much
Right.
the trend. Sometimes I wonder if I had held political office at some point, I'd probably be a lot further along with this. I'd probably be on MSNBC or...
Well, I often say you should run for office.
Yeah, maybe I should.
You never know. You started the show off by saying how controversial you are in some people's eyes, and that's an important attribute in anyone that is either running for public office or holds public office. If you're not controversial when you start, then it ends up that you develop that characteristic.
That's very true. I think you're right. So are you guys bummed, or what do you think? I mean, it really...
I'll be perfectly honest. The decisions and votes I have to take at City Hall probably have very little to do with whether Congresswoman Bachmann seeks re-election. But
don't you enjoy turning on your television and seeing her face and hearing her say something?
Thankfully, I'm sufficiently distracted with a lot of local issues these days. So I don't
understand.
Necessarily need to rely on that for the entertainment factor that it certainly provides.
Because Sarah Palin seems to have vanished. So I mean, who do we have? John, what do you think? Are you going to miss? Are you going to miss Miss Bachmann? Mrs. Bachmann?
Well, I enjoyed meeting her when she came to Manchester.
You did? Oh, you met
did.
her. Do you like her?
Well, I didn't support her in a run for presidency, but I certainly do like her, and she was cordial and polite and nice.
So is she for real? Am I wrong? Because like I said, I assume that she's actually a satirist, and she can't possibly be some sort of performance art thing.
She obviously did a good job while she was there. The people of Minnesota liked her.
Did you meet her husband?
I did not. I don't think he came.
Okay. All right.
We met at Liberty Harbor Academy.
What do you think's going on there with Marcus? I think something's up.
I've got enough things to worry about. Goffstown is where I'm concentrate my efforts.
All right, fair enough. What do you think, Mel?
I think her and Sarah Palin should get together and have their own comedy show.
I will tell you, maybe a reality show of some kind, or a sitcom. The thing, there's a big difference between the two of them, though. Some people like to draw a comparison, but they're very different. Oh, actually, we have a call. Our first call since coming to MPTS on Unleashed. Hi, welcome to Matt Connarton, Unleashed. Who's this?
Hi, is it Sugarbug?
Sugar? What did you call me, sir?
Sugarbug, Matt. It's me. It's Glenn.
Oh, Glenn. Is this Glenn R.J. Willett?
Yes, I just wanted to wish you a happy inaugural program, and I'm upset that you've left my global empire from downtown Manchester, New Hampshire.
QC News, yes. Well, I felt badly about it, Glenn, but I no hard feelings. It was just time to move on. You know what I mean?
Well, I know your big complaint was that you didn't like the way your show sounded lately because it sounded like you were underwater. It was very like audio problems, and I just wanted you to know that my favorite TV shows growing up was always that Sea Hunt and Sea Quest.
Yes.
So I always wanted to be surrounded by a lot of men of the sea, if you know what I mean.
Right. I think I do, Glenn R.J. Willett. Well, anyway, I'm a little put off that you called me Sugar Butt live on the air. I thought that was just kind of our thing.
I apologize.
By our thing, I mean your thing. I mean, you know what I mean.
I'm so upset that you've left, but I wanted you to know that I'm in talks with Michelle Bachmann right now to take over your old time slot.
Oh, really? Very nice.
We're going to be doing a cooking show, and I'm going to call it Cooking with the Queen. It will be her and her husband.
Yes. Well, that sounds wonderful. When is that started? Because she's still.
I'm hoping next week because with my global World Wide Web empire.
Yes, you are global.
I am going to take over the world with my lasers.
Yes, you do love the lasers.
Didn't Aquaman have those lasers? Didn't he have something, or did he have
Aquaman?
Didn't he have?
Yeah.
Or he had shrimp or something. He had something or seahorses or something.
He had seahorses.
Something used to help him out. Maybe that's where Glenn's getting his.
That would make sense.
Laser kind of superhero.
Yeah, because he loves the sea and whatnot.
He loves the sea, right?
Yeah.
I love the men in the sea.
Oh, the men in the sea, yes.
Men in the sea.
Yeah.
The sailors, yes. So, what?
Now, I want to say also, I was hanging out watching Ginger's show before.
Yes.
And I wanted to say how excited I was to listen to about the last half hour about toxic shock syndrome because I really love the hoo-ahs.
Yes. Did she discuss aspartame at all today? Because I thought that was her the point of her show, how aspartame gives you cancer. Because every day I enjoy a nice diet soda in honor of Ginger.
Well, I'm sitting here drinking a diet Fresca, an Arcos diet anyway.
Yes, I believe so.
Yes, and I'm looking on the internet right now of any other men I can adopt online.
Oh my! Well,
this is an afternoon show, isn't it?
This is an afternoon show.
It is, right? Yeah.
Glenn R.J. Willett, always very conscientious of that. Yes, he just he's sharing a little bit of TMI there, perhaps from Glenn, but that's all right. Glenn, of course, your show you have Willett at Large gone global Friday nights at 8 p.m. on QCE News, and of course we run that on IPMNation.com as well. I won't be there this Friday night. What do you have planned?
Well, we're probably going to badmouth you for about a half hour.
Good. Yes.
Then I'm going to hit on my gay co-host.
All right.
And hopefully Lionel will sing.
Lionel, yes.
Of the Bee Gees.
Lionel wasn't there this past Friday.
Well, we're hoping to get him back.
Yes,
quite
indeed.
the voice.
Yes, he
Lionel.
does. Yes, he does. Glenn, thanks very much for calling in and to support. And it's funny, I just saw you down the hallway. I wasn't expecting you to call in live on the show, but
his ventriloquist skills are really something.
Yeah,
he's standing in the hallway right there.
Oh, he's right out there. Oh my God! Oh, there he is. There's Glenn R.J. Willett. Glenn, did you hang up?
You know damn well I don't talk like that.
So we have two Glenn R.J. Willetts. Glenn R.J. Willett has successfully cloned himself.
That's not me, that's an imposter. There is an imposter at TV 23.
Yes, there is. Obviously, you are the real Glenn R.J. Willett.
Because I am a popular man in Manchester. I need to have doppelgangers everywhere.
Yes.
Throw the people off.
That's right. Well, Glenn, thank you very much for calling in, and for having a doppelganger. And any parting words before we let you go?
Well, just so you know, I love your show. I've always loved you.
Yes.
You will always have a special place in my heart.
I same here, I think.
So good luck with your endeavors.
Okay. Well, thank you, Glenn.
Thank you for calling, Mr. Imposter, because I'm the real Glenn R.J. Willett.
It's a dangerous hour on television.
Wow,
anything can happen.
Remember, this is supposed to be family programming.
Yes. Glenn, are you still there?
Oh.
It was Dave.
This is family programming.
Yes.
On TV 23.
Yes, it is. All right. Well, thank you, Glenn. I'm glad you both agree. All right. Goodbye.
Lots of love. Goodbye.
Thank you. So both Glens agree that this is family programming. So see, I don't get that because I don't have a family. I don't have any kids or anything. I've been married, so I don't get the family thing. What's that about?
My wife's pregnant with her first, so I'll let you know.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
So you got a lot on your plate.
Hey,
you got a child on the way.
Nothing really else going on. We don't want to be bored or anything.
Right.
So, yeah.
No, good for you.
Running from there, have a baby girl on the way.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Oh, we have another call. I want to talk to you about running for mayor in a moment. Hi, welcome to Matt Connarton Unleashed Television Edition. Who's this?
This is Ginger.
Well, hello, Ginger. How was your show?
Hi. I want to ask Mr. Arnold, if he became mayor, what would he do about the lacks of inspection on the housing apartments of the city?
Oh.
It's an excellent question. Ginger, thank you very much for that. One of the things that we've been doing a lot of, I've been doing a lot of the last couple months since we announced, is you go out in the community and you show up at events and you listen to people.
Yeah.
And this is actually one of the things that more than just a couple people have brought up to my attention. And believe it or not, it's something that comes to the desk of the alderman at City Hall every once in a while too. Inspections of residential properties, inspections of multifamily, units, especially on the west side, and property owners voice complaints and concerns about these inspections because sometimes they feel that they're not always consistent. Sometimes they feel that the process is more difficult than it should be. And I think that's a very legitimate concern. I think we should be talking about ways to make processes, especially inspection processes, and again, this could be residential stuff, it could be commercial stuff, it could be the process you have to go through before you open or expand a business in Manchester. I think that we should be talking about ways to streamline those processes. Because I think any way you cut it, whether you're a property owner or a business owner, or or an entrepreneur looking to...
No. I'm a citizen that has
I think it's more difficult than it should be.
Maintain properties, almost causing my death in one, and I'm advocating for people ever since. And it would appear that the inspectors of the inspection department have been getting away with bad inspections for decades, putting people in harm's way, putting children in harm's way, children dying in these properties due to the lead paint. So this is a very long-term advocacy. I've lived here for almost a quarter century.
Just to be clear, Ginger, you're talking more about public housing, right?
No, I'm not talking about public housing. I'm talking about housing. Period. When you have a city inspector to come to a property and he turns the other way and allows the owner of that property to continue to get away with non-code compliance that puts people in harm's way. This has been going on for decades, and I've lived here for 2.5 decades, and I've experienced it firsthand, and I've been to other people's apartments, and I've videotaped their concerns, and City Hall does nothing about it.
Well, I appreciate you raising the concern, and I'm happy to broach the subject with my colleagues on the Board of Aldermen. I'm not aware of any specific examples of like fatalities or anything, but that's not to say that we can't be doing better, particularly when it comes to consistency. And I think that Ginger raises a legitimate point, and we should make sure that we are being consistent and doing everything we can to make sure that people have safe buildings.
Before I go, I've been before the Board of Mayor Aldermen. I stopped going because they stopped listening.
Well, definitely something that I would like to do is, if you have specific concerns or specific instances that you can draw attention to and help educate the policymakers on, shoot me an email, or give me a phone call. You can get my contact info off the city website, and I'd love to follow up with you about it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for the question.
Thanks, Ginger. Yeah, I know that's something that she's been, an issue she raises. I kind of was teasing her about the aspartame thing, but one of the other issues she does talk a lot about is the housing situation and lack of inspections. I know she's had some very bad experiences. But you mentioned something in your initial answer about streamlining.
Yeah, at first I thought she was talking about just the inspection processes in general. I hear it a lot as it relates to opening up a business or expanding a business.
Because this is something I learned actually from doing rock, paper, hand grenades with Gary, is hearing from a lot of folks about how, and John, we've talked about how in the state of New Hampshire as a whole it's not as business friendly as I used to always believe. I think the time that it was just you and I on rock, paper, we talked about that, how New Hampshire in some ways isn't very business friendly, but also specifically Manchester. I hear a lot of people complain about how Manchester isn't very friendly to new businesses that want to come in. And
we'd like to think that we're business friendly. In fact, current leadership tells us that we're business friendly and everything is booming. I don't know that I agree with that. I think that there's certainly room for improvement.
A lot of empty storefronts.
There are certainly vacant spaces that could be better utilized. But to the issue of process, it seems that we go out of our way a lot of times to make it difficult. If someone wants to open up a business, they have to go to several different departments. They physically have to go to several different city departments, which aren't located in the same place.
Right.
Get sign-offs, before they get, all of their permits in order, and that's odd to me. There has to be a more efficient way to do that because you want people to open up businesses. You want people to energize the economy. You want people to talk to colleagues and individuals in their industry and say, hey, Manchester's a great place. It was really simple to open up this business and get more people to do it, and then it expands the tax base and offers more job growth opportunities. But it's always been puzzling to me that we don't have an easier system than we have today.
Yeah, yeah. Well, John, you're on the. Are you currently on the planning board in your town?
Currently the chairman of the planning board.
Okay.
In Goffstown, yes.
And another thing that we've talked about is how planning boards very often. You were the one who said that it's like they plan for nothing because they don't because they make it very difficult for new businesses to come in and for expansion to happen. So
it depends on on the makeup of these boards.
Yeah.
And right now, let's say we've got 4 of us out of 7 who are very pro-business and pro-approving process and trying to streamline. There was for instance, in the center of Goffstown, there was a small space for rent. Wasn't changing the use. It was going from one retail to another retail.
Yeah.
But on that change, the fire department came in and they said, well, we need an hour rating for fire on the ceiling. We think you only have 45 minutes, so you have to add another 5/8 piece of sheetrock. You're lucky we're not going to do anything with the wall because we're concerned about the ceiling. They're getting their information from the state fire codes.
Yeah.
It's a lot of these different departments get their information and they're never communicating with each other to try to make it streamlined. But I think what I found from that little exercise was that in commerce, you are regulated. So when you have a business, the landlord, for instance, has to comply with these particular regulations that come down from the state.
Yeah.
Because in commerce, you are regulated, and you accept that by having your formation of your business and your very existence licensed by the Secretary of State. So, there's that fine line that says, geez, that's ridiculous. You shouldn't be so hard on them. There's the other side of it that says, but you agreed to it, so that's the contract. So,
right.
Unfortunately...
and in fairness, I mean, some of those regulations obviously are there for a reason, for safety.
I agree. I think
fairness,
that's right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's right. They are there for a reason. And but can they go overboard? Well, there are some overzealous members of boards and people that think that they've got to protect everybody from this particular idea or individual. So
Yeah.
so they take it on as a challenge that nothing's going to get by me.
Right.
And which I think that's it's. You've got to kind of decide, but just because times are tough, I wouldn't let regulations drop to a point of leaving things to be unsafe.
Yeah.
At the same token, you don't want to discourage new businesses from coming in. So really, there needs to be a plan. You want to open up a business in this town? Here, this is a checklist. Check those things off, and now we're ready to talk. And when these things are satisfied, then you don't have to keep looking for a new inspector to keep putting you off another month.
Right, exactly.
And I think that's the best way to do it, is to have a plan. If you don't have a plan, then it's very difficult to try to initiate one on the go while somebody's looking to rent that space. All of a sudden, 6 or 9 months later, they haven't rented it, and the landlord hasn't collected any money, and nobody's doing business yet either. So
Yeah.
Sometimes you have a plan and it just gets ignored too, And,
all that,
Right,
sure,
yeah.
exactly. I mean, it's very difficult. I appreciate what Pat's doing as an alderman in Manchester, and all the aldermen here. I mean, it's a big job. It's a big city. And there's an awful lot of people working for these departments.
And I would point out, it sounds like we have some bipartisan agreement that there needs to be, we need to make things easier for businesses.
I think in the vast majority of instances, you'll find that Republicans and Democrats can sit in a room together and they can have conversations without it coming to fisticuffs.
Right.
There's a lot that we agree on.
Fisticuffs do make for good television, though. I mean, look, I'm not going to lie to you. There's that little part of me that thinks, fisticuffs, that'd be kind of cool.
Well, the viewership of the Board of Aldermen meetings is always higher when there's something really controversial, and then people start yelling at each other.
I meant like today on the air, like maybe some Greco-Roman wrestling, maybe, guys? What do you think? I mean, I'm putting you on the spot.
Probably not the best for today. But,
right.
I'm happy to conduct some polling for you out in the community and see if people would be watching that sort of stuff.
I think they would.
Yeah.
I think they would. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll get Glenn back in here to referee, which he would love. That's all I'm saying.
I think he'd like to wrestle.
You think so? You think he'd like to wrestle?
I think he'd like to be
So
the
there's the
Greco.
unleashed.
Glenn would like to be the Greco-Roman.
Oh, boy.
So, Patrick, why else are you running for mayor? Is this your first run for mayor?
It is.
Okay.
Yep. I've done 2 terms as an alderman. I actually came in a special election to fill out the remaining couple months of my predecessor's term when she resigned.
Yeah.
And so I had those couple months and then had my own 2-year term and then got reelected to another 2-year term, which I'm currently in now. But to answer your question, I got into this race because current leadership seems to say that this is the best we can do or that everything's okay.
Yeah.
And that's, any number of issues. It's job growth and economic development opportunities. It's the situation with the Manchester School District, and I simply don't agree with that. I think that we could do a lot better. We're the largest city in the state. We have tremendous resources in Manchester. We have, a workforce that could be better utilized. We have all kinds of other resources that we simply don't use. So I'm spending the next several months talking to people throughout the city, and ultimately we'll be asking them for their vote in the fall. But basically, the theme of our campaign is we can do a lot better.
Yeah.
And we're going to be talking about some of these missed opportunities. But it seems every time you open up the newspaper, there's another example of things are not all just fine, as we might be led to believe. I mean, whether you think that the Manchester School District is doing as well as it could with the resources that they have. I just opened up the newspaper the other day, and we're in litigation with Ascending Town, with Hooksett. We've had a relationship with this community for 100 years. They send their kids here to be educated. Now we're in court because they want to send their kids somewhere else. And whether the quality of the Manchester School District is real or imagined, the concerns there doesn't change the fact that we're in court now.
Right.
Fighting, duking this out. So I don't think that's okay, and I think we could do a lot better.
Yeah.
So those are basically my reasons for running, talking about Manchester leading in education, talking about leading in job growth opportunities and quality of life stuff. We should be the best place to raise a family.
Right, no doubt.
But I don't think a lot of people out there right now feel that way.
Right.
We've got people that have lived in Manchester for a long time, multi-generational families, and they're looking at going elsewhere.
Yeah.
So let's
absolutely.
turn that around.
Absolutely. John, what's your situation in terms of your future politically? Are you going to run for another term?
I have no idea yet. That's too far away to make any kind of decision like
I
that.
was hoping to make some news.
But I won't run for mayor of Manchester.
You will not
There you
run
go.
for mayor of
I
Manchester.
will not run for mayor of Manchester.
Okay. Well, you don't live in Manchester, right? I mean,
That's correct.
Sure,
again.
but that doesn't mean that we're not going to be picking up the phone and asking John for advice on how they do things in Goffstown.
And I'm in, I'm in Penardville. I'm in I border.
It's basically,
It's basically West Manchester. I mean, but
Yeah.
we pay our taxes, and we are proud to be Goffstown residents. But we are certainly right on the, right on the line.
right.
We only have a river that separates us.
John, can I ask you a sort of a theological question? Are you comfortable with that?
Absolutely.
All right, good. Because you're
There's no question that John's not.
I've faced just about everything. I can.
okay.
He's a member of the New Hampshire House. It's
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
Yeah,
in the
right.
trenches.
Right. This is a picnic. Matt.
That's right.
Sort of. Well, we're the least church-going state in the country, though. Apparently, if you believe the polls, the statistics, which surprised me when I learned that. But you're Catholic, correct?
Yes.
Patrick, are you
Catholic.
You are Catholic.
Yeah.
You're both Catholic.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll ask both of you. Pope Francis said something very controversial, which I'm sure you're both aware of, about even atheists are redeemed if they do good works. And he's really stirred up a hornet's nest with this. Now, I'm not Catholic. I was raised Catholic, but I opted out, sort of quasi-agnostic, I guess. I'm not an atheist. I find it too confining, but I'm not convinced about anything at this point. But what impressed me about what Pope Francis said was, one of the things I've always had a frustration with in terms of organized religion is the idea that, and with Christianity, the idea that unless you accept Christ, unless you specifically do that, then you're damned. You're going to go to hell or whatever it is that's supposed to happen. And of course, everyone has these different nebulous ideas of what that exactly means. But something about that always troubled me is, well, what about, you have large portions of the world where people aren't exposed to religion, People have no reason to become Christians or have not been born into it. So how does it make sense logically if we have a loving and just God that all of these people, through no fault of their own, all these people around the world who've never even been exposed to religion, they go to hell because they haven't accepted Christ without even having necessarily the opportunity to. So when Pope Francis said that, basically saying that, even someone who doesn't believe, if they're a good person and they do good things and they care about people and so forth, they are redeemed. I thought, that is huge. I mean, even as a non-Catholic, I don't know how you guys feel about it, but as someone who's not Catholic, to me, I was like, wow, that is huge. And I'm really curious to know, as Catholics, what you guys think about that.
I'll take it first.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, you're stirring up all kinds of suppressed memories. I'm a product of Catholic schools, K through 12.
Me too.
So, right, yeah,
Me too.
I'm having flashbacks from high school theology and philosophy classes.
Yeah.
I think the difference between the theology that's in theory versus practice, very, very different. Religion's a very personal thing. I think faith is a very personal thing.
Unless you're running for office.
Hey, it's still a very personal thing.
Yeah.
So personal decisions.
But atheists can't get elected generally.
Hey,
it does play some role in public life, whether you want it to or not.
yeah,
probably less now than it used to.
I don't know. I can honestly say that I don't think it's come up really at all in my time at City Hall. We're not dealing with some of the social issues that they're dealing with up in Concord, but it doesn't really come up. For I think the vast majority of aldermen
That's
or
interesting.
anything at the city level. But to jump back to what do you think about that? I think encouraging people to do good things and good works is always a good thing.
Yeah.
And that's where I'd leave it.
Yeah, but you don't quite buy into what he's saying. In other words, it's more about being a good person than.
Well, I say take the religion out of it. It's you always want to encourage people to be good to others and stuff, and not hurt other people. And I think whenever someone promotes that, it's a good thing.
Yeah. Okay. What do you think, John?
Well, I think Pope Francis knows what he's talking about.
Yeah.
And I think I would trust his instinct on that one.
Yeah.
I would have to agree with him.
Yeah.
I happen to go to church. I know a lot of Catholics that haven't been to church in years.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. I was an altar boy. I started off I did the whole thing right from probably 5 or 6 years old. But that's one thing that really impressed me about Pope Francis was when he was out in the rain. I saw this picture. It was pouring out, and there was a sea of umbrellas all around him, but he didn't have an umbrella.
Yeah.
He was willing to not have anybody have to hold it for him. He was willing to be soaked and still come through and say his message.
Yeah.
While the followers didn't want to get wet. And that's their prerogative not to, but I was very pleased to see that no one in particular was holding an umbrella for him. He was ready to fight the elements on his own.
He seems to...
and he's a Jesuit, which makes a big difference.
Yeah, can you explain that?
Not really. That is another... No, I can't. Not well enough to, because I could certainly be corrected of it. But it is maybe
it's a special respect.
It's a special respect.
I think Jesuits
absolutely.
among individuals who grew up Catholic.
Really?
Yes.
They're straight shooters, I think.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Exactly. Yes. But exactly what it is, I couldn't tell you because I don't.
Because he, I know that my impression is that he seems less interested in some of the pageantry, for lack of a better word, as opposed to previous popes in terms of, like he kind of has a simpler approach, almost more like a populism that he exudes, and I think the umbrella thing, that's a great example where it's not, it's less about him and all that goes with his power, because it's obviously the Pope is a very powerful man on the world stage.
Maybe the most powerful man.
You think so?
Oh, I think the man that runs the Vatican is probably the most powerful man in the world.
Really? Would you agree with that, Patrick?
Well, he's a head of state.
Yeah.
And, we could probably debate for several hours, the definition of power. But
Yeah.
I think there's no question that he's incredibly influential, and, he's leading a very large demographic of individuals that,
Right.
cross national boundaries.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
If I was going to have a guest sit with me at a dinner,
Yeah.
if I had a choice of any head of state of the world, I would pick the Pope if
Oh,
he
no
would
kidding.
join me.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Interesting. Interesting. Does religion play any role, John, in your as a state legislator? Sometimes I'll say state legislature when I mean legislator, and sometimes I say legislator when I mean legislature. Well, I have a little trouble with that.
I understand.
As a state legislator, does it play a role in your campaigning at all? Or?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I'm not. I certainly let people know that I'm a Christian.
Sure,
let people know
sure.
that I'm a Catholic. That kind of gives some sort of an idea of how you may have been raised and some of your values. Doesn't necessarily mean anything, but it's always something that I'm proud of.
Yeah.
But in the process of voting and legislating, I would say it probably doesn't, but it did teach me right from wrong. It taught me some of the good virtues of mankind and of society in itself. But I'm not sure, and I don't think. I mean, I would much rather decide whether or not the RSAs and the statutes that we vote on are constitutional,
Yeah.
much more than whether they are religious.
Yeah.
So that religious is a very personal matter to me, but I guess it can't help but come out
Sure.
in some situations. But for instance, I happen to personally be pro-life.
Yeah.
On issues. It's very difficult for me to want to force that on everybody else, though. But just
Right.
my own personal feeling about where life begins and how valuable life is, every human life, I tend to be on that side of it.
Yeah.
But it's very difficult for me to tell anybody else force my ideals on anyone else
Yeah.
when it comes to that particular subject. And that's why I'm glad the Supreme Court took that on and decided
Settled law.
settled it
Yeah,
for us.
John raises a good point. That we all have our own spirituality. Some of us are, consider ourselves religious, and a lot of individuals don't, and that's okay. As we say, it's a personal choice. But we're a nation of laws, and a state of laws, and I thought that was a point that is very well received by people in the community.
Yeah, and I think generally
so.
too. I think a lot of people. I think that's a large. Both Democrats and Republicans, I think, largely feel that kind of have that, because that's the attitude I have, that abortion is not something you want to get on board with, but it's you don't want to legislate it either, because we don't want to go back to a time, when, not to be graphic, but when a woman would perforate her uterus with a coat hanger, and because that's what used to happen, and we don't want to go back to that, regardless of how anyone may feel about it personally. So I think there's a lot of people on both sides of the ideological spectrum who basically have that view that it has to be kept legal, because to go back and outlaw it now would be we would revert to some very bad things that used to happen. So, and I think too, I think the best way to prevent, if you want to prevent unwanted pregnancies, you can do so through education and making different options available. I know this is something Gary and I disagree on rock, paper, hand grenades, and he likes to bring up that he says that sex education doesn't work in schools, and I don't know how you guys feel about that, but I always point out that in Texas, Governor Rick Perry is very proud of his abstinence-only approach to education in Texas, and Texas has the highest teen pregnancy rate in the country. So
so it doesn't sound like it's working that well.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, and I think that if I think when you wage a war on something, you actually put the energy into that particular issue, And I'm not sure that waging a war on anything ever solves that problem,
Right.
other than make it worse.
Yeah. War on drugs certainly isn't.
The war, well, the war on anything.
Yeah.
The war on anything, I think kind of makes, kind of just adds fuel to that fire.
Yeah.
I'm not sure the war on anything solves anything. I don't remember any good war. Ever really.
Most of the time when you, like for young people, if you tell them not to do something or to stay completely away from it, the first thing they're going to do is go and do it. So like if you tell them don't ever have sex and abstinence only, they're going to be like, okay, well now I'm going to go do this. And I don't like these purity balls and abstinence only. I think I was actually reading something recently where there were statistics saying that it doesn't work at all.
Yeah.
And, I definitely agree with Planned Parenthood and sex education and all that stuff.
When you talk about religion, too, and how do we, does that affect any kind of legislative decisions? You hear about that in the Middle East, for instance. You hear about that in other parts of the world where the religious leaders are the most important leaders, and they actually run the political process, which probably is why these other countries are always in a state of war. They're always in a state of they're never really getting anything done, and it's these religious factions that keep the problems going. And I think that we decided a long time ago that that you can be whatever religion you want, but really the main issue here is making sure that whatever is done is for the good administration of government, and it's not a religious decision, and we don't have religious sects running our White House or our State House, thank goodness. Because obviously you can never get together with too many different religions and really try to come together with a good answer, because it's very difficult to come to any agreement.
Separation of church and state principle. That was a good one.
It's a great way to govern, and is not to bring religion into the governing process. But it's certainly something that can influence all of the people involved in that. And that's through our freedom of speech and our deliberation process and our debating process from where we came from and who we are. But when it comes to voting, it really should be based on whether it's constitutional or not, and whether it's for the good administration of government. That's and if it's not for the good administration of government, or doesn't have anything to do with that, then the government should stay out of it.
So I think we have some bipartisan agreement again.
Hey,
that's awesome. Yeah, separation of church and
state.
state.
Don't act too surprised.
You know why I'm surprised? But I shouldn't be, John, because I should know you well enough by this point. But I'm impressed because you don't often hear a Republican say that. At least I don't, honestly, about separation of church and state. I hear Democrats, and that's something I've always agreed with Democrats on. I mean, I'm an independent myself, so I'm all over the place, but I don't often hear a Republican
that's most people,
advocate
though. Most
for
people
that.
in the community, though, are
You think so?
I do.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do too.
Because you couldn't say that down south and hold office, John, as a Republican. There's no way. In the southern part of the country, separation of church and state, they'd be like, get out of here. Go back north.
Well, that's probably why I still live here. That's probably why I'm still here. But I own an auto. I've said this a million times, but but I'll keep saying it. I own an auto repair shop, right? I fix cars. Right. I was fixing cars an hour before I cleaned up to come over here. And I was in my work clothes, and then I went home and took a shower and cleaned up, and came here. So I work for a living. I work right alongside my mechanics. I fix cars. So when I decided to run for office and to represent the people of Goffstown, I did it not for any type of entitlements, not for any reason. God knows it cost me enough being away from my business for 2 days a week. For 6 months, from January until the end of June, possibly. So, I did it literally because the people that I talk to that come to my shop and the other folks that I get to meet, they really need representation. They need representation from someone who's no nonsense, that isn't going to tell them one thing to get elected and then turn their back on them once they are elected. I see it all the time, and you've probably read about it. We had a couple op-eds and the union leader talk about, I'm this radical, kind of crazy, kind of representative guy that wants to kick out 189 legislators from the State House. Well, that's the farthest thing from the truth.
Yeah.
What I did was file a redress petition under Part 1, Article 31 of the New Hampshire Constitution that says the legislature shall assemble for the purpose of public redress of grievance, and to have legislation to prevent that from happening again, so the people won't be wronged by their government. So I took that, and then I also looked at other amendments, and it just happened to be on the RSA, the repeal of the Stand Your Ground legislation, HB 135.
Yeah.
I didn't agree with that because we have these God-given, there we go with God again, but these God-given unalienable rights and I believe 135, Stand Your Ground, is not a gun bill, it's not a gun issue, it's a self-defense issue. And self-defense under Part 1, Article 2A of the New Hampshire Constitution is such an important part of our being that it states in Part 2, Article 2, Part A of the New Hampshire Constitution that every person has the right to protect themselves, their family, their property, and the state. And when somebody sponsors a piece of legislation, an RSA, to remove my property line, to move my property line, to diminish my rights in any sort of a way, and it just happened to be self-defense, but it could have been speech, it could have been searching my vehicle or my home, walking in my house. It could be a list of rights that somebody might want to vote on to diminish my rights. I think at that point they violated their oath of office. They violated the Constitution. They've broken RSA 92:2, which says if you violate your oath of office, you shall be removed. And that's why I'm not trying to have 180 legislators removed. They're doing it to themselves, and it's in the language of the Constitution and statute right now. And so I just wanted to, if you read about that kind of stuff, I'm not I maybe, but I don't think I am the radical, outside. I think I'm the centrist. This right here. I can quote this back and forth all the time. The New Hampshire Constitution is one of these things where it flows from 1 to 39, in 1 to 40. All of the articles, they all flow together, and they're all contiguous, and nothing contradicts each other from the beginning to the end.
Yeah.
And so if my legislation, when I vote on an RSA in the House, and it passes the muster for the Constitution, I feel confident that I've done the right thing, and I think I'm voting right in the center where I should be.
Yeah.
Based on what the Founding Fathers had in their when they made a contract with the people against the government to limit the government's powers against the people.
Right.
So I don't feel that it's not wacko kind of outside thinking at all.
Yeah.
I think it's right in the middle. This is what we were supposed to do.
Right.
So, I can go on and I can tell so when we talk about town government, when we talk about city government, we talk about taking care of people's housing, we take all these issues that come up. The answer is in here also.
Right.
And it's a real short. Most of them are short paragraphs. Read one. You can find something.
Yeah.
And it's pretty clear. And God knows how many unconstitutional pieces of legislation that's out there that are enforced all the time and they
no doubt,
they probably shouldn't be.
Right.
Quite frankly. And anybody that votes to violate or to diminish yours or mine or anybody's rights out here needs to step down because they are violating their oath and they're violating the Constitution.
What about if someone votes to limit Glenn R.J. Willette's rights? Because I think he needs to be contained in some way.
Absolutely not.
No?
Absolutely not.
What do you think, Patrick?
I think that
Just to contain him.
I think the issues we're talking about is one of the reasons that I'm a lawyer by trade, and it's the reason that lots of lawyers are in business. John talks about
I'm kidding, Glenn, if you're
legislation. I'm sure there's going to be payback for that.
Yeah, there always is.
Legislation out there that ends up getting struck down by the courts, and it happens with greater frequency than I think most people realize. And again, one of the great things about our system of government is you can have the legislature do something, and maybe the courts end up striking it down because they find that there's some overarching goal or interest, like individual liberty or whatever. I think those issues certainly invite, a firsthand, acknowledgement of how our system oftentimes will work. One part with the other.
Absolutely. Do you have, in terms of practicing law, do you have an area of expertise?
I do a little bit of everything.
Do you?
I was telling you before we started the show, I work over at Backus, Meyer and Branch. So Bob Backus from the Progress Report, he and I probably see each other more than we might like. But I joke.
Oh, so now you're going to have somebody's going to want to give you some payback.
That's right. No, Bob and I are very good friends.
He's sorry,
and,
Bob.
He's a good guy.
No, he is, yeah.
Represents me up at the State House as my state rep, and I represent him as an alderman. But we do a little bit of everything, and lawyers certainly, I think, lead the pack in terms of having more jokes about our profession than any other profession. But and I think we've heard them all too. But
right
come up with some new jokes. I'll charge you with that. On your show. Come up with some better lawyer jokes.
That can be like a new weekly segment.
Hey,
That sounds
glad
good.
to help.
Absolutely. Before we start to wrap up, so now do you have a website for people who...
I do, yeah. Thank you for that opportunity. www.arnoldformayor.com. People can go on the website, learn a little bit more about me biographically, learn a little bit more about why I'm running. And, they can also find out how to get involved. If you have questions, give me a buzz, shoot me an email, give me a phone call, and definitely ask. One of the great things about politics in a place like New Hampshire is you have that access to actually ask your elected officials, and I'm sure John agrees with that. He's great. Points out his experiences in Goffstown. Everybody knows where to come to. When they have a question. Right. You got your business over there, and I think that's great. But check us out on the website. People of the city are going to be seeing us out and about from now until November. So
excellent.
Look forward to those discussions.
All right,
and thanks again for the opportunity to come on the show.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming. And John, do you want to plug your auto shop really quick?
Sure. I can plug a couple things if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
It's Uptown Auto Repair, 578 Mass Road, next to Dunkin' Donuts in Bernardville. Across from the new Rite Aid. We talk politics, we talk auto, whatever you want to talk, and anything else in between that. So, feel free to come over. My email address is teachgolfeasy@aol.com. It's not that easy, but that's what I had when I was when I was instructing it. And a website that you can go to, because I keep talking that redress petition. And I just suggest that people get a constitution, a New Hampshire Constitution, and read it and find out how simple things really could be. The website is www.nhredress.info. And actually there's a place where you can click on a petition, you can sign online. I've got over 550 signatures from New Hampshire people that want me to that I presented my petition to the House Clerk for that redress petition of the right of the removing of people's rights, which I won't stand for because I represent the people. I'm not representing the state or the corporations. I'm representing the people, and the people that elected me to go into office are the ones that I answer to.
Outstanding. All right. And of course, Little Mel, our marketing minion at IPMNation.com, and her show, No Boundaries.
Mondays at 10:30 p.m.
Eastern Time.
Yes.
And want to thank everybody. Thank you guys both for being here. Patrick,
it was our pleasure.
John
Our pleasure, and good luck, Pat,
thank you, John. Thanks.
Run for
really good being on with you. Thank you. Appreciate that.
My pleasure.
And don't forget the live radio edition of Matt Connarton Unleashed Saturday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern on IPMNation.com. And Matt O'Neill is my guest. He's a where's Matt from? He's a political strategist.
From I think he's from Massachusetts.
From Massachusetts.
I think.
He'll be my guest, joining me via phone Saturday night, 11 p.m. Eastern on IPMNation.com. And if you're watching on MPTS, I believe Inside Story is next. And come back at 4 p.m. for Norman Friends, where you can see yet more of me, because the M in MPTS stands for Matt. No, not really. I'm just kidding. Bye, everybody.